There we go.
Are we on? Setting up.
Yes, we're on.
Oh, awesome. Okay. It's just the little update on my end was a little slow. Sorry, guys. Hello. I'm so excited to be live with you today with my good friend. We've worked together as clients. We have been friends for a whole bunch of years now. Her name is Christina Daves, and she is the queen of do-it-yourself publicity to get your business massive media exposure. It's easier than you think. And today we're gonna show you how and demystify it for you. But first, let me just welcome Miss Christina. It's so good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Always love spending time with you.
Yeah, I know. It's like an excuse for us to hang out because we're both so busy. But I've been really, really excited because this topic is just so important. Of course, the whole theme of the Highly Visible Entrepreneur series is about kind of two things. One, how do you get visible? And then what do you do with that visibility to really leverage it to grow your business? And media is obviously an enormous way to get that done, but I think it feels very out of reach, especially for small business owners. Or if you're a solopreneur or a consultant, you might think, you know, that's just for the really huge brands. So today we'll hopefully demystify that. But first, I just want to let all of you know, Christina and I, as I've said, have been friends for many years. I really adore her personally, but I also have a ton of respect for her professionally. If you don't know her already, her company is PR for Anyone, and she used publicity in her own business, and maybe she'll share a little bit of that story. Ended up like on the Today Show and the Steve Harvey Show, on NBC, on the biggest platforms you can imagine for a product that she had invented. And when she really unlocked that secret, she knew she had to share it with more people, and now is invited to speak, which is how we were able to work together. She speaks all over the country, is invited to give talks for major companies, give keynotes on the topic of PR. So she really, if anybody, really gets the power of A, get out there speaking, get on the one-to-many platforms to get visible, but then B, leverage media to really amplify that and blow it up, much larger visibility than you could ever imagine. So welcome again. And do you want to introduce yourself? How do you explain what you do to people?
Yeah, so as Kristen said, just super quick background. I had invented a product. If anyone's ever been in those big, ugly medical boots, I was in one and I was headed to New York and I was miserable. And I'm on the train looking for anything, medical boot fashions, medical boot accessories, and there was nothing on the market. So the light bulbs went off. I always joke, I think my husband saw the light bulbs in the sky and thought, oh, here she goes again. Because once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. But I invented a fashion line for that. Everybody loved the idea. Oh, Christina, that's great. That's fabulous. What I didn't realize was that I had invented a whole new space in the marketplace. So nobody knew they needed to decorate them. Well, I had hired a retail consultant, if you want to call that person that, who really did nothing. And I was tied into a contract. So I'd spent all my money. We had mortgaged the house, maxed out credit cards. And it was a, oh my goodness kind of moment. So I figured out publicity because it's free. And I was like, okay, if I work my butt off, I've got to be able to figure this out. I've got to be able, if I get on television, that could be 1 million people who could learn about cosmetic. And that's exactly what I did. So I started, it's been 7 years. And now, fast forward 7 years, I have a formula that works. And you said, what about, and I hear this all the time, oh, I'm brand new in my industry. Don't worry about it. Oh, I'm older. I'm not, I'm changing. I have one of my clients is 74 years old, left the teaching industry and invented a product and got on The View and Good Morning America and the Today Show. And I'll go on and on. So there's no excuses. Yeah. Everybody watching this can get publicity. And most of you could probably do it in less than 30 days.
I love her throwing down the challenge in under 30 days. So by the way, everybody, if you see me looking down, I am totally listening to Christina. I am plugged in. I'm trying to make sure that I'm also looking at the comments as well, so that as you have questions, or if you want to say, yeah, great point, Christina, please chat us up in the comments below. That would be awesome. And I will absolutely share your questions with Christina as we're kind of going through. Sorry, let me mute that. Gosh.
So by the way, everybody,
Good
if you
Lord.
see,
There we go. Okay.
Another party going on.
I know. We all know I'm technologically challenged. So we've got people sharing this live. Thank you so much. As we've been asking throughout this series, if you are generous enough and you care to share this with someone you know who might want to be getting their business into some publicity, onto some media channels, whether it's TV, radio, magazines, share this with anyone it can help. We appreciate the visibility, and they, I'm sure, will appreciate the help as well. So first question is, like, what is publicity? Can we just define that so everybody knows what we're talking about?
Right. You know, back in the day, you had the big PR firms, and they were super successful because they had that coveted Rolodex, right?
Yeah.
So public relations, how are you getting your business out there publicly? I don't even know if that's the official definition. That's kind of how I envision it.
Yeah.
But now in this world of Google and social media, we have access to everybody. I can't tell you how many times I have been in the media because I sent a tweet. How many of my clients have sent a tweet? You know, they see a journalist who needs something, and the first one to respond. And there's a lot of pressure on especially television journalists to get their numbers up, their social media numbers. I have a friend who just retired. She's an Emmy award-winning anchor. She was here in Fox, and she said to me, it used to be, if it bleeds, it leads. You know, that was what you did in the news. Now the mantra on the television studios is, if it's shareable, it's airable.
Oh, that's a good writer downer.
And so write that down. You've got to, and this is why when you talk about visibility as a package, it's a whole, I think your dog just walked by.
Yeah, sorry. If you hear the clickety clack, that's always Rocky.
No, so sweet. But it's part of the package, because at the end of the day, besides the media, your customers, everybody is going to check you out. Now we have the ability to Google people. So you want to check out on all your platforms to show that you are visible and you are an expert in your industry. You're providing good content, you're engaging with your audience, and the media is going to like people like that. I have gotten media exposure as well because I have big engaged numbers in my social media. And I'll tell you a funny story. I have a regular segment on Good Morning Washington, and I had a new assistant, and I gave her all the tweets to put in. You know, I write them, and then she does all the, I'm not technological either. So Kristin, I know that. So she queues everything up. Well, she didn't realize that I needed them all to go, like all of those the same day before. And they called me. They said, why aren't you pushing this out? Well, I was like, whoa, hold on, I can fix that. But there is something to that, but don't buy followers. It's got to be legitimate, good people who are following you and engaging with you. But that's really important. It's that whole visibility package.
I love that. And so we know, of course, that, you know, it helps your authority when you're seen on, let's say, a major media outlet. If you are on a morning show, which I know you're on morning shows quite often for your business, you could be featured on a radio show, right? There's tons of media available, but it does a couple of things for people. It builds your authority, of course, because you just kind of automatically look like a pro. And it's really great when those as seen on logos and on Kristina's material, you always see that when it's actually real, because there are people faking it. But when you actually have the proof, I mean, it just makes you look like a rock star. So what are the benefits to getting on major media platforms besides authority building?
Right. So the visibility, people find you that way. I love to tell the story when I speak, because it used to be if you put my name into Google, Christina Aguilera came up because she owned all the Google chips on Kristina. Well, I've been doing this really hard with myself for the last 3 years. I'm 14 pages of Google. Wow. So people are going to check you out. I made a business pitch to the president of $1 billion credit union, not million, billion. Because I'm like, why not? What's the worst he's going to do? Not answer my email. I said, you know, I have this great idea. I'd love to meet with you. He emailed me right back. He put my name into Google. And then when I met with him I met with him in less than 5 days. I'm in his office and he comes in and he said, do you know what happens when you Google you? That's why I got that meeting. So your clients, your customers, whoever that is, whatever kinds of people you work with are going to Google you. And I think that is the most powerful part of what free publicity can do for your business is you check out, you look like a rock star. When they put it in, oh, wow, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Washington Post, or whatever your industry is, even if it's trade magazines, but you're dealing with people in your trade, that's so important for them to see that. And all of those publications have more Google juice than any of us will ever have. Really, there's just so much content out there that we need to rely on those coattails to get up the Google authority ladder.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love just considering what happens when you Google your name. And so if we Google your name and nothing comes up, it's kind of like, that's a little weird. If we Google you and we see your website and we see you were in Forbes, or we see you were in Realtor Magazine, or we see you were on the Today Show or your local news, whatever it is, we start seeing articles, we start seeing video clips. This is really going to elevate not just your authority, but your visibility and then your ability to generate leads. Now, I know because we've worked together that your clients get phenomenal results. You're that for me, and that you're a great example of someone who, when they speak, you close the room and you get tons of clients and business out of it. And then your clients, when they implement the tips that you're going to be sharing today, get great results. So before we give some of those tips, could you share maybe a few examples of how somebody went from 0 to results? Because I know it can happen pretty quickly.
It can go like that. I don't know where to start. One of my favorite was just probably 2 weeks ago. If there's any realtors watching, one of my clients is a real estate agent. I actually work with a lot of real estate agents. She's with Compass, which is a huge company. And she texted me and she said, "Do you have 2 minutes?" And I said, "Of course." And she was furious about Redfin. If you guys all know Redfin, big national company, made the decision to not represent buyers anymore. So there's something called buyer agency. And Pat is really big with representing buyers. And she said, "This is wrong. This is what they're doing in the real estate space." I said, "Pitch that story. This is a David Goliath. You go after the big boys. Tell the media why what they're doing is wrong." She had a full article in the Washington Post within 1 or 2 days after that.
Wow.
So that's what we call newsjacking. That's when you take something that's happening. Here's a tip: something that's happening in your industry that's big in the news, that's trending, whether it's on Google or Twitter, and you put your spin on it, your angle on it, and say, "Hey," and especially if you're saying, "Hey, this isn't right. They shouldn't be doing this." If you can go after the big companies and explain why what they're doing is really detrimental to all the little guys out there, you will have a much better chance than just saying, "Oh yeah, that's great what they said." That's yeah. Okay.
I second that opinion. A lot less.
I won't get into deep for that.
This is a good moment then to maybe transition into like, what is a better way to get that visibility? I know you have some great, obviously people could train with you and learn a ton, but just for the sake of like a down and dirty training, what's some of the quick things that people could start doing today to start grabbing people's attention and getting that publicity?
So I have a formula that my wonderful coach, Kristin, and I came up with. We call it the Get PR Famous formula. No, I love that. And it's catchy and it's really caught on because not everybody wants to be famous, but you really want to be known in your industry. Yeah. So it's a 3-step process. It's being newsworthy, it's creating great hooks, and it's finding the right journalist. So being newsworthy, for example, is newsjacking. When you go up against a big popular story, you're making yourself newsworthy. And don't try to get an expose. I say, gosh, we'd all love to be featured on 60 Minutes. Like, "Oh, Kristin Thompson is the best coach there is," and probably not going to happen. I don't even know that Tony Robbins has been on 60 Minutes.
No.
But you can be an expert in your industry and provide newsworthy story ideas. Maybe you relate things to seasonality. Right now, this heat wave that has gone all across the country. I think it was like 38 states. Maybe you own a HVAC company and you can talk about, what that means. My girlfriend in Detroit is out of power and they said she won't have power back till Tuesday. It's like 5 days of no power. What does that mean? Maybe you're a nutritionist and you can talk about, hey, this is the stuff you've got to keep. This is the stuff you can salvage. This is So think of your industry, think of what's going on. And here's a little trick. If there's something going on nationally, but it's not particularly affecting where you are locally, like the hurricanes or forest fires, we have these big disasters, tornadoes, you can talk about, if it's relevant to your space, what does that mean locally? What if it happened here? I told my realtor clients, I'm in Virginia. We do get hit by hurricanes sometimes, not often. I don't know if we can get hurricane insurance. I don't know if we can get flood insurance. If you're an insurance agent, talk about that. So even if it's not happening in your backyard, you can pitch the story of what if. That's newsworthy.
I love that. There were just those, a good example of this, there were just those earthquakes in California. Here in Oregon, we don't really get earthquakes, but whenever that happens, we'll start talking about what if it happened here. And I immediately saw an ad for an emergency backpack that was like an earthquake kit that you could buy for your family members. And it was trending in my feed. It was for Oregon residents. What if, you're probably not prepared because we don't get a lot of earthquakes in California. Everybody has an earthquake kit. So it was a brilliant way of that company doing exactly what you're sharing, jacking a hot news story and saying, what if it did happen here? Let's just be prepared by the backpack and you're ready to rock. So, and
they could have pitched the media with that and said, hey, we're going to bring in the backpack. We're going to show you what kinds of foods are good if an earthquake comes in. If their backpack is part of the story, but they can bring all this other stuff in, and it's very visual for TV. Yeah. It's a great newspaper. It's a great story.
I love that. And if you're hearing me clickety clack typing, I am in the chats, in the comments, trying to just recap some of Kristina's tips. I'm not a great typist, so they'll be short. But so one was looking at current events, looking at the season. How do you newsjack what's hot and trending right now? Relate it back to your topic. What's step 2 then?
Is creating a great hook. So you've got to get them to read your email. You've got to get them to read this great story idea. Once you build a relationship, my producer at ABC, whenever I send him an email, he answers on the weekends. I can email him anytime. But when you're starting, they're not going to answer you right away. You've got to cut through all the noise. And some of these, like these morning shows, they could get 1,000 emails by noon.
Wow.
So, so you can't just say, here's a story idea. You've got to be, just going with the earthquakes. What if an earthquake hit Portland, ...
Yes.
Probably somebody's going to open that and read it. So my biggest tip is look at magazine covers. Where are magazines placed? They're placed in the grocery store. It's an impulse purchase. And the last magazine, I paid $7 for my impulse purchase, which I couldn't believe. I think, when did the magazines get so expensive? But those are hooks, because those people are getting paid for you to be hooked in just from a sentence, just from a few lines off of that. Yeah. So when you do your homework and you know who your target market is and you know your demographics and all stuff I help people with, and you know what those magazines are, you can Google those magazine covers and see how they write their hooks, so that when you write your hook, you're relating to them, you're speaking in their language, and they're more likely to open your email.
I love that. That is a great tip. So look at the magazine covers. Yes.
And then the last step is finding the right journalist. You don't want to send your business story to the food editor unless you're writing a business cookbook. I don't know. You want to find the right person. Do every step of homework you can do in this process. You will be so much further ahead of everybody else. I promise you that. So if you can do a great pitch and you can do it the way they formatted it, you can write a hook the way they're used to seeing it, and you find that exact right person, you're just checking the boxes for them. You're making it so easy. And once you start, you've got your doors open. You have so much ability to get more media coverage. Media begets media. But use Google, especially for local publications. Who writes about X for Y? You'll be astonished what you can find. Now, there are other resources, but Google, and every day Google gets more and more content in there, more and more information. So it's more and more people are in there and accessible to get all their information.
I love that. So, and we talk a lot about, using Google to find speaking gigs in the same way. I mean, I think sometimes I say often when I relate to finding speaking opportunities that sometimes when we want something, like if you want media exposure or if you want a speaking opportunity, we suddenly in our mindset think it's not possible, it doesn't exist, it's never going to happen because we just get nervous. But the reality is that the information is out there and Google makes it really easy for us to get. Is there a business association in your area? Is there a great networking group? Well, if you type in networking Portland, Oregon, guess what? A ton of groups are going to come up, or business association, tons are going to come up. Well, the same is true with publications. And like you said before, especially because of social media and Twitter, well, I'll be curious what you think, but it seems like Twitter is a really fast way. And a lot of journalists are on Twitter, right? A lot of like writers and what do you call them? Anchors and things like that. They're on Twitter. Is that a good way to reach out or at least to just start to get to know who to contact?
Yes. And it's great. I wouldn't pitch right out of the gate on Twitter. I would start sharing their work and connecting with them and, maybe commenting. And I wish I knew we were going to talk about this because I just saw a study and I don't remember the number, but I want to say it was in the 60% of this is where journalists find their story ideas is Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter is fast moving, it's current. And this is why you want to be on. So one of my clients is a stager, a home stager. They get houses ready to be put on the market. Yeah. And she saw the NBC anchor say, hey, I live in the DC area and we just got HQ2 for Amazon. And when they announced that, he said, I want to find a house in Arlington, which is near where the headquarters is going. I want to run my story from there, looking for a real estate agent. Well, she tweeted right back and said, hey, I can get you into a house in Arlington. It's beautifully staged, whatever. And guess who he interviewed? He interviewed her about the real estate market. Because early bird gets the worm. I've seen this happen so many times when Target, when they had their first huge breach on Black Friday, if you guys remember, that was like the first one. And I had been at Target on Black Friday. My NBC station ran a story with a business coach to talk about how it will impact Target. I'm like, where's the cloud security guy? That's who I want. Like, tell me where my credit card information is. But I'm sure she got on the phone and said, I can be in studio at 4:00. Do you want to talk about the ramifications of Target's business? First guest, hot off the press.
I love that.
You just monitor
Yeah. So we've got the monitoring, like what's hot, what's trending right now, and sort of jacking the news. And that could be the season. It could be breaking news stories that are trending. It could be holidays, right? And I know you have some great resources that help people with that. Then we're using a hook. So again, we're going to look to places where hooks already exist to kind of build our muscle for creating them. And the magazine covers are the tip there. That's really easy. And you can find them at any store. I like Walgreens because they usually have that big wall of magazines and you can see all of them at once, and some grocery stores too. And then 3 is finding the right journalist using Google. And then sort of the tip on that tip is to start connecting with people on Twitter. Even if you don't use it for your business, like I don't get tons of clients from Twitter, but you'll definitely see what news stories are trending, what's hot, look in that sidebar, start following the journalists that you're interested in. And your tip on that was to add value. We're not pitching them. Just like as a business owner, you don't want someone saying, hi, nice to meet you. Can I have something from you?
Right.
We can share people's content. Oh, this reporter's great. Look at this story she just did on XYZ, or this finance guy is amazing. Be sure to read his blah, blah, blah. When we lift other people up, then they're much more receptive when we have another tip or idea from them, which I think is the other big point that I know that you make in your teaching that we also talk about when we talk about booking gigs, because it's weirdly a similar process, even though they're very different results. Which is we're not reaching out to people and saying, I'm great, right? I would love to be on your show. I am an expert at this. Just like you wouldn't call a group or organization and say, I want to speak at your group. I'm a great speaker. I do XYZ. We flip it the other way and we say, I have a great story idea for you, right? On the story end. And I have a great idea for content for your next meeting on the speaking end. We're coming from a spirit of service focused on helping them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Always provide value first. Always. And my first time on Fox, I had seen a great story, and I'm never up for the 11 o'clock news ever. And if you guys remember when Dollar Shave Club came out, and
Yeah.
they had that great video. So she had this segment called The Next Great Thing. And she showed that whole video, and I was just captivated. I was like, oh, this is so good. So I was up and I just tweeted at her. I was like, oh, I loved your segment. That was awesome. Thank you. And she said, oh, great. If you happen to know of any products that would fit in our Next Great Thing series, please let me know. I'm like, well, a matter of fact, I do. So that's how fast this can go. That's how easy this can be in terms of, I just said thank you to her, and boom, and I was on. Again, I had to come up with my hook, because she said, put something together. And I was actually on for National Healthy Foot Month. So it took a few months, but she loved it. And she put me on for that. So it was like February, and then I was on in April. So it's not always an overnight, but if somebody says, what do you have? And then they love it, you make sure you find a way to get on.
That's right. We always say here, say yes first, and then use your mentor. When it comes to speaking, you come to me. When it comes to publicity, go to Christina and say, now what do I do? We can figure out the strategy, but just say yes. Yes, I do have a talk. Yes, I could come on and talk about blah, blah, blah for your show. And then, you come to your mentor and you figure out the strategy to leverage that. What have you seen? I know we only have like a minute or so here before we wrap, but what is possible? Like, what are you seeing happen when people are getting visibility? Like, what is possible for a business owner to achieve? You're not selling your stuff, but do you see this leading to more leads and sales?
Oh my gosh. I can't even tell you. I'll just give you, because they're too big. I guess with real estate, you can really grow massively with exposure.
Yeah.
But I have 2 clients who grew their business by $20 million in sales each year, just from free publicity, because they can go to listing appointments and they can say, here's an article about this. Here's an article about this. Oh, look, I'm on the cover of this magazine. So it knocks everybody else out, of the running if they haven't been quoted in the media. So they get the yeses over and over and over again, because they have the credibility of the media.
So think about, if you're like, well, I'm not a realtor, but think about, that's fine if you're not, but translate that to your industry. So if you're a coach or you're a consultant or you're a course creator or you're an author, imagine if you're trying to get a big speaking opportunity and you can say, well, here's a quick, clip of me on my local morning show. Think about how much easier it would be to A, attract high-end clients, B, to spin those opportunities, whether it's an article or time on some media on a television show, use it in your social media and say, hey, if you'd like another tip, click here for my free gift or click here for a consultation. So it's not just all of the exposure that you get. That's huge and builds tons of credibility. Odds are people are going to be pinging you and asking you about your area of expertise because they saw you on that show or read that article. But there's also the long tail of that, which is then promoting that piece of exposure on social media, on your website, to your contacts, which just amplifies it even further, right?
Absolutely. And I know we're done over, but I just want to say real quick, it's so funny that you say that, because I got an invitation to apply to a speaking bureau today.
Yeah.
And it was a jot form. And after my name, those were the questions. Have you ever been on national television? Have you ever been on local television? Have you ever been, list every media that you've been on. And then what are your numbers? What are your social media numbers? So that's, in order to get with the bureau, that you've got to be at a certain level and check out and have that credibility. But I've never seen those questions asked specifically before I can even get on a phone interview with them. They're going to weed you out at the beginning with that.
Yes. So it's great because at whatever level you're playing at, you can use this. If you're just getting started, use this to launch. I mean, you can catapult yourself between speaking and media. If those are the only 2 things that you did, you would launch yourself from total obscurity to being really well known in your local market, like wildfire. But then know that as you be brand new.
I want everyone to know that you can be brand new in your industry and you can spin it. You always have history that you bring with you, expertise that you bring with you. And don't think, oh, I'm new. Why would the media want me? Because you have a gift. There's something you bring to your industry that nobody else has. And that's what I'm really good at, pulling out of people and helping them with that and getting that story. But anybody can get it. You don't have to be a seasoned veteran.
Yes. And it's the same with speaking. And I think the reason why, like, you can go get a talk if you've never given one before and go book 30 talks, in the next 30 days, and you can get on media. And here's why. It's because of the tip that Kristina shared earlier, which is all about the hook. If the hook is strong enough, if the reason why, like if the reason how you can help their audience, whether you're speaking or you're on a TV show, if the reason and the way you can help people is valid and necessary, that's what they get excited about. So you don't really have to prove yourself. You have to prove that you have a way to be helpful to their show and to their audience, or to the event and to their audience when it comes to speaking. That's really what it's about. So I know we've been ripping and rocking. A lot of you, I'm sure, want more from Kristina, of course. So she does have a free gift inside the membership site for the Highly Visible Entrepreneur Series. If you're not in there yet, please do hop in, because not only will you get to watch this recording and see the other trainings, but the gifts, the bonuses that people have added in are really valuable. Kristina, I'll share that link to join if you haven't yet in a moment in the chat, in the comments below. But while I do that, Kristina, do you remember what you gave as a gift, by the way?
Do I remember? I think we did a book on how to get massive visibility.
Yeah.
And then I think we did the Harrow. So we didn't even talk about Harrow, but everyone just look into it. helpareporter.com. It's a free media query service. And I give you tips on how to reply to that. So these are national media outlets who are looking for you. That's how I got on the Steve Harvey show. It's how I got on Dr. Oz, Entrepreneur, Forbes, Success. Like, these are not little rinky dink. These are like massive players in this. And in the other part of the gift, I'm pretty sure, and if not, you can reach out to me and I'll give you this gift. But it's a step-by-step process on how to have success, because same thing, they're getting hundreds or thousands of responses. So I'll show you how to stand out in that crowd.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, it's called Get Massive Exposure to Grow Your Business. So it's kind of like the do-yourself publicity toolkit. So make sure that you go into the series, go into the bonus area, and you'll see the button to get Kristina's free bonus. Her training is not like airy-fairy encouragement. It's really tangible tips that you can put into place right away to start getting visibility. Harrow tips I know are great. And if you're not familiar with it, then definitely get that bonus so Kristina can break it down for you. You're going to want to be using that to find those high visibility opportunities. Thank you so much, Kristina. I know the half hour just goes like, whoop, what?
I know.
But everybody's got those three great tips to get started with. So start looking at the news and looking at what's trending in the news and on Twitter for those idea joggers. Use your magazine covers as inspiration to come up with a great hook on your topic, relate it to the current event, and then start reaching out to people. Make sure you get her free gift so that you know kind of how to do that in the best way possible. And be sure you give Kristina some love in the comments below. Let her know, what was your big aha? What is your big takeaway? What action step are you going to put into practice from today's training to get highly visible? We will, as soon as this recording, does its little thing, by tomorrow at the latest, we'll put this recording up into the membership site as well, so you can rewatch, glean the tips back again, really get it into your muscle memory so that you put it into action. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Tomorrow, my guest, if I'm remembering, is Chris Weiser. Chris is amazing at LinkedIn. It'll actually be a great complement to today's training. If you especially work with a more corporate market, this will work. I think you would also be able to use Chris's tips to find these journalists that Kristina was talking about. How can you do that on LinkedIn? And then how can you generate some leads for your business? So he's amazing, another firecracker. You're gonna love him. But tell Kristina she rocks in the comments below. Share your big one takeaway and put one tip into action today to get highly visible. Big virtual hugs and high fives to you, Kristina. I love you so much. Thanks for being a great model for how to speak, serve, and grow your business in a really big way. And we'll see you back here tomorrow, everyone, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2:30 Eastern, for another way to get highly visible in your business. Make it a great day. Bye.